and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm going to read a couple of pieces that appear in the Down in the Dirt issue collection book. This is from the September to December 2022 issue collection book titled The Paths Less Traveled. Ta-da! For us Northerners, this is, I think, in Buenos Aires, so we might not travel this road so much, so maybe that fits, I don't know. But this is titled The Paths Less Traveled, and I was going to, it's got cool, it's harder to see. You can see it on Scarcent TV if you want to see a better version of this cover. But I was going to share with you 3 poems that have nothing to do with women's issues, not really. So this first one I was going to read is a periodic table poem. Yes, I know I'm doing that to you. It's a bonus one. It's not just iron. So it's also in this book as well as this one. But it's for iron, and it's called Iron in My Eyes. You think I was joking. You think I wanted this to happen. But this is what it boils down to. I can no longer respond. After all I've been through, I think you'd understand. Come to me. I dare you. Open my eyelid. Shine a light right into my eye. See if I respond. I even heard someone said that I look so pretty in my hospital bed here, wearing nice eyeshadow. I know I'm a dark girl, but they had to be informed that wasn't eyeshadow and that I had 2 black eyes. You see, that's how the doctors knew that I had a brain injury. When the blood seeps out from around my brain, it collects only in my eyelids. Iron gives color to blood, and coming through from under my skin, my blood-filled, iron-rich eyelids must have been a pleasant mauve hue. You think I've got an iron will, and I do. But at moments like these, I wonder if I have cried iron, leaving it in my eyelids for you to see. They all say that your eyes are windows to your soul, and mine have been darkened. Is it by you? Is it by the world? Is it by the hand I was dealt? Is it all fate? All I know is that mine have been darkened, even if it is by iron. And as silly as it was back in the day when I would write these periodic table poems, I have to close this up, see if I can make an image out of it big enough for you guys to see. I would use this jump photo of myself, and I'd put it with each of the elements. Iron in my eyes. I don't have a picture that went with it for something, but I used to do that when I first had my periodic table poems, so I had that. So that's a heavy one. And I think I did a show once where I read a poem like that, and John came up to me, my husband, and he opened my eyes and he shined the light right into my eye on a stage, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm like, just see if I respond. Trying to be all, but now I'm going to try to do something with a little more levity for the end here. I don't know if anybody else watches or ever watched Star Trek. Right now, there's the final season of Star Trek Picard that is on right now, and on a total whim, and I'm watching it because I like it, and I saw a thing for sale for like $1.50. I could buy a ring that has the Star Trek logo on it. So I don't know if I just show it to you guys. Hey, there's my Star Trek ring. Oh yeah, I've got instead I've got my Star Trek. I've got to show it off for my thing. Anyway, I bought this silly thing because Star Trek Picard is on right now, and I found in this book a couple of poems that back in Chicago I was asked to do 2 features, and they were for Sci-Fi, for the science fiction show that was going on at the Palmer House in Chicago, and I'm like, I've got to come up with science fiction poetry for a couple of features, so I did. And so these next 2 poems are about Star Trek stuff. The first one was from the show Imzadi, that was called Imzadi, and the second one was from a show that's called Resistance is Futile. I hope that their levity will be good against what I've been doing lately for you guys. But this first one is called Star Trek, Star Wars, and Stormtroopers. I heard another episode of Star Trek where they mentioned duranium, so I looked it up online. Duranium is an extremely hard alloy used in starship hulls and handheld tools. But at the same time, Google listed a slew of links for this elusive duranium, and one of them was not for Star Trek, but for Star Wars. So, I followed the link because there's a Wikipedia page for Star Wars Wiki, and the Revenge of the Sith novel explains that duranium is stronger than either transparasteel or bronzium. Oh, I could go on about all the other details about this imaginary substance, but it just made me laugh when I heard terms used in Star Trek that were also in Star Wars. Then, of course, my mind went to Star Wars again, because if you don't have science fiction for ideas, you might as well use history itself, because the only difference between the stormtroopers in Star Wars is that they wore white versus Nazi brown shirt stormtroopers. Because, like the Nazi SS, the brown shirts of the stormtroopers, when they were all arrived en masse, their uniforms made them all blend into one large force that no one individual could flee. I know. Stormtroopers in Star Wars covered their faces with their headgear, but that trick may have been the only thing to make the soldiers better than the SS, because then they could say they were only following orders, and in this way, it was so much harder to identify your enemy if you can't even see them in the face. It's funny because I would go through they'd be talking about like, oh well, what about the Breen? And I'm like, that's from a different show, and they overlap their things all the time when I hear it on Star Trek. So I just thought that was really funny if you make that comparison. But anywho, I have one more. It's goofy, and this one was from Resistance is Futile, and it is called Outer Space and the Sound of Silence. The one things astronauts talk about when they speak of outer space is about the deep blackness of the universe. That without our atmosphere giving the sun particles something to bounce off of, the vastness of space is an empty void. But the one thing they never talk about when they speak of outer space is the sounds they hear when they're out there. Who knows? Maybe you're just too preoccupied seeing through the universe. Maybe they're only hearing their body breathe, their heavy breathing while trapped in their spacesuit. Maybe all they hear is the motion of their bodies against the sides of their mini atmosphere in this planetary existence created for each astronaut in their suit. And sure, Captain Kirk or Jean-Luc Picard may not have needed spacesuits when commanding the Starship Enterprise, because each ship had its own little planet with a fully supported ecosystem. But the question begs itself, how could sound travel through space? I mean, I know light does. How else would we see sunlight travel through space to get to planet Earth? But sound, that's a whole different ballgame, so to speak. Sound waves travel like light or heat waves, but here's the catch. Sound travels by making molecules vibrate. And if there aren't any molecules in outer space, or far too few to make a difference, sound can't travel. Now, I know it's all acting, and I know the whole crew has to all lean the same way whenever a ship gets hit, but the one thing that the directors want, and all the sound effect guys have to add in post-production, is to give movie-style explosions, and that probably goes over the top. We suspended reality with every ship's gravity, and we even accept transporters duplicating any person right down to every molecule, including their clothes, to magically be reassembled somewhere else, which only existed because in the original shows they didn't have props for travel, so they just made up the transporting idea. So, over the years, we've been willing to suspend our beliefs for science fiction. And I know some places claim to hear noises from our sun, but they're actually only inferring the vibrations within the sun, which generates sound so low humans can't hear it, and that they have to speed up the sun's vibrations by 42,000 times. So 40 days of vibrations are converted into 5 seconds so that we humans can ascribe sound to anything outside of our own atmosphere. Because residences inside our sun is sound bouncing through the gases inside of our sun, not the sun relaying music to our ears. So, okay, Gene Roddenberry, we get it. Make the mystery of outer space sound bigger than life by giving us a sense that we lose in space. And Jean-Luc Picard, and even you, James Tiberius Kirk, will thank the Foley artists as well as the actors for giving us more than science alone ever could. Okay, I got my science fiction out of the way. So I hope that was mildly entertaining. So I tried to dress in a Star Trek uniform when I was doing. I'm like, what can I do to make myself like I can pull this off? But anyway, that was just so that you didn't think I just wrote about angry women issue all the time or periodic table stuff. So I thought I'd share those with you. And I don't know if anybody is watching Picard or not. But Jean-Luc Picard has a son. Ha! I just get that out. Whoop! I shouldn't have cheated and told you something about it. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that reading, and I'm hoping, Tom, would you like to close out this thing with any sort of, we're approaching the time anyway, so close out with something wonderful. Otherwise, we'll meet up on April 2nd. Go ahead.